Connor's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while I scrambled eggs. I shouldn't have looked. That's what I told myself later, when everything fell apart. But the screen lit up with a preview of messages from someone named Jess, and the words I saw made my stomach drop. Can't wait for tonight. Your place again? My hands froze. The spatula clattered against the pan. Eggs forgotten. 8 weeks pregnant, morning sickness finally subsiding, and I was staring at proof that the father of my child was sleeping with someone else. I grabbed his phone. No passcode because he trusted me, or because he didn't think I'd ever check. The messages went back months. Explicit photos. Plans made while I was at work. Translating documents in our tiny apartment. Believing we were building something real. Something worth keeping. Connor walked in, towel around his waist, hair still wet from the shower. He saw me holding his phone and his face changed. Not guilty. Annoyed. Madison. Who's Jess? My voice came out steadier than I felt, which was something of a miracle given my hands were shaking. He sighed like I'd inconvenienced him. A friend. Friends don't send pictures like this. Look, I was going to tell you. He grabbed the phone from my hand. Not roughly, but with enough firmness to make his point clear. This isn't working. You and me. I'm not ready to be a father. You said you wanted this baby. I lied. He said it so casually, like admitting he'd lied about liking my cooking or enjoying my favorite movie. I thought I could do it, but I can't. And honestly, I'm not even sure it's mine. The accusation hit harder than a slap would have. I'd never been with anyone else. He knew that. We'd been together for 2 years, lived together for 6 months. But watching him stand there, dripping water onto our bathroom rug, defiant and cruel, I realized he was looking for any excuse to justify what he'd already decided. Get out. This is my apartment, Madison. My name on the lease. You should pack your things. Now? I was shaking. Though whether from rage or shock I couldn't tell anymore. In the middle of the night? I'm calling Jess. She's coming over. So yeah, now would be good. I didn't pack. Didn't take the time to sort through 2 years of accumulated life. I grabbed my keys, my phone, my wallet, and walked out into the February cold, wearing jeans and a sweater that didn't keep out the chill. My car was parked 3 blocks away because parking in Billings was terrible even in winter. By the time I reached it, tears blurred my vision, and my fingers were numb from more than just temperature. I drove without thinking, without destination. Montana stretched empty and dark around me, the highway cutting through nothing but frozen wasteland. Snow started falling, light at first, then heavier. Big flakes that stuck to the windshield faster than the wipers could clear them, building up at the edges. I wasn't dressed for this. Wasn't prepared for anything, really. 26 years old, 8 weeks pregnant with a man who just told me he didn't want our child, didn't want me, maybe never had. My parents were dead. My best friend Camilla was traveling for work. I had exactly nobody. My phone buzzed repeatedly with texts from Connor, but I didn't look. Couldn't. Didn't want to read whatever justifications or accusations he'd decided to throw at me now that I wasn't there to defend myself. The Highway 3 stretched ahead, deserted and treacherous. Most people had enough sense to stay home during a Montana blizzard. But I kept driving, because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant braking completely. I didn't see the deer until it was directly in front of me. I jerked the wheel hard, too fast. The tires lost traction on black ice I hadn't known was there. The car spun in a sickening rotation that seemed to last forever and no time at all. Then impact. The sound of metal crumpling, glass shattering, the sensation of flipping, the world turning upside down and sideways. Pain sharp and bright across my forehead. Darkness swallowing everything. When I came to, everything was sideways. My seatbelt dug into my chest and shoulder, holding me suspended at an awkward angle. Broken glass glittered in my lap, like deadly confetti. Blood ran warm down my temple, dripping onto the deflated airbag below me. The metallic taste filled my mouth. I fumbled for the seatbelt release with fingers that wouldn't cooperate properly. It clicked after 3 tries. I fell hard against the passenger door, which was now beneath me. The car had rolled at least once, maybe twice. Smoke rose from somewhere under the hood, acrid and threatening. The baby Panic cut through the haze of pain and confusion. I pressed my hand to my stomach, searching for pain beyond the obvious injuries. Nothing acute, but I needed help. Needed a hospital immediately. Needed someone to tell me my baby was okay. I kicked at the driver's side window until it shattered outward, safety glass exploding into the night. Cold air rushed in, stealing my breath and shocking my system further. I hauled myself through the opening, glass cutting through my jeans, my palms leaving bloody smears on the frame. Snow soaked through my clothes immediately, melting against heated skin before the cold could penetrate. The car was 20 feet off the road, crumpled against a pine tree that had probably saved my life by stopping the roll. I couldn't see any lights anywhere. No houses, no other vehicles, no signs of civilization. Just snow falling thick and fast, burying everything in white silence that felt suffocating. I tried to stand. My legs shook violently, barely holding my weight. Cold bit through my inadequate clothes, and I realized with detached horror that I was going into shock. I needed to stay warm, needed to move, needed to do something other than stand here bleeding into the snow like an idiot. I stumbled toward the highway, leaving dark footprints that filled in behind me within seconds. Each step felt heavier than the last. My vision swam, doubled, then cleared slightly before blurring again. Blood loss or hypothermia? I didn't know which. Both, probably. Help. I tried to shout it, but it came out as barely a whisper. There was no one to hear anyway. Just me and the endless Montana night swallowing everything. I made it maybe 50 yards before my knees gave out. Snow cushioned my fall, soft and almost welcoming. I couldn't get back up. Couldn't feel my fingers anymore. Couldn't feel my toes. Couldn't feel much of anything except a spreading numbness that almost felt peaceful in its own terrible way. This is how I die, I thought, with strange clarity. Alone in the snow because I was stupid enough to drive angry in a blizzard. Because Connor didn't want me. Because I'd always been forgettable, replaceable. I thought about my baby. 8 weeks, barely formed. Would never know I'd wanted them even when their father didn't. Would never know anything at all. Headlights cut through the white curtain of snow. For a moment I thought I was hallucinating, my brain shutting down and offering comfort in my final moments. But the lights grew stronger, and I heard an engine. A vehicle slowing, stopping. Doors opened. Voices, low and urgent. "Boss, we should keep moving. The roads are getting worse by the minute. There's someone in the snow." Footsteps crunching closer through the drifts. I tried to lift my head, couldn't manage it. Strong hands turned me over gently, carefully checking for neck or spine injuries with practiced efficiency. A man's face appeared above me, dark eyes scanning my wounds with clinical precision. He was younger than the authoritative voice suggested, mid-30s maybe. Handsome in a way that seemed almost cruel, all sharp angles and focused intensity. A thin scar marked his chin, pale against olive skin. "Can you hear me?" I managed a nod, small and weak. "We're going to get you out of here." He didn't ask if I needed help. Didn't waste time with questions I couldn't answer coherently. He simply slid his arms under me and lifted as if I weighed nothing at all. I should have been scared. Should have questioned why someone was on this empty highway at this hour. Why he looked like he'd just walked out of a board meeting despite the weather. Why his companion called him boss with that particular tone of deference. But consciousness was slipping away again, and his chest was warm against my frozen skin. That was all that mattered. "Hospital," I mumbled through numb lips. "Pregnant." His arms tightened fractionally around me, almost protective. "How far along?" 8 weeks. "Franco, we're not going to Billings General." "Boss, she needs..." "We just left a meeting with Verciani. You think they won't have eyes on the hospital? We take her to the estate, call Fontanelli. Tell him to be ready for hypothermia, head trauma, possible internal injuries." I wanted to protest. Wanted to insist on proper medical care at an actual hospital with actual doctors. But darkness pulled at me insistently, and the warmth of the vehicle they placed me in felt like salvation after the cold. I heard fragments as consciousness faded, the man's voice giving orders in tones that expected immediate obedience. Someone responding in clipped, professional tones. The sound of an engine pushing through impossible weather. A phone call being made, medical terms I only half understood. Then nothing at all. Pain woke me. Sharp and insistent behind my eyes, radiating down my neck. I tried to move and immediately regretted it. Every muscle in my body screamed protest. Easy. A male voice, older than the one I vaguely remembered from before. You're safe. Don't try to sit up yet. I forced my eyes open. Soft light filtered through gauzy curtains. The room around me looked like something from a luxury hotel. High ceilings, expensive furniture, walls painted in muted grays. Nothing like the stark white of a hospital room. A man in his 60s stood beside the bed, stethoscope around his neck. Kind eyes examined me with professional concern. I'm Dr. Fontanelli. You were in a serious accident. Do you remember? Fragments came back. Connor. The phone. Driving in the snow. The deer. Flipping. Cold. A man lifting me. The baby. My hand shot to my stomach. Is fine, Dr. Fontanelli said quickly, gently pressing my shoulder back down. Strong heartbeat. 8 weeks along, correct? I nodded, relief making me dizzy. You have a mild concussion, some lacerations that required stitches, and we treated you for moderate hypothermia. But the pregnancy is stable. No bleeding, no cramping. You were very lucky. Where am I? A private residence. You needed immediate care, and the weather made hospital transport dangerous. I looked around again, taking in details I'd missed before. The IV in my arm, fresh bandages on my hands. Someone had changed me into soft pajamas that weren't mine. Through the window, I could see snow-covered grounds and what looked like a security fence in the distance. I need to leave. I tried to sit up again. The room tilted. Not advisable. A woman's voice came from the doorway. She was beautiful, late 20s, dark hair pulled back severely, expensive clothes that screamed attorney or executive. The roads are still closed. Another 12 hours at minimum before plows can get through. She walked in with the confidence of someone who owned every space she entered. I'm Lucia Mancini. My brother is the one who found you last night. Your brother. I tried to piece together the fragments. The man with the scar. Adrian, yes. She pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat with perfect posture. He was returning from a business meeting when he saw your accident. Fortunate timing. There was something in the way she said business meeting that made it sound like anything but. I'd like to thank him. And then I need to go. I don't have money to pay for private medical care, but I can set up payments. That's not necessary. Lucia waved a dismissive hand. Consider it handled. You needed help. We provided it. People don't do that. Not without wanting something. A slight smile curved her lips. Cynical for someone so young. How old are you? 26. And 8 weeks pregnant, according to Dr. Fontanelli. Is there someone we should call? The baby's father? Family? The question hit harder than it should have. No. No one. Something shifted in Lucia's expression. Not pity, exactly. Understanding, maybe. Then rest. Recover. When the road's clear, we'll arrange transportation wherever you want to go. Dr. Fontanelli checked my vitals one more time, gave instructions about rest and hydration, and left. Lucia stood to follow. Wait. I needed answers. Where exactly am I? 20 miles outside Billings, the Mancini estate. She paused at the door. If you need anything, press the button beside the bed. Someone will come. Someone? We have staff. She said it like it was obvious. Rest, Madison. I hadn't told her my name. But I supposed my wallet had been in my pocket. They would have checked for ID. After she left, I tried to process everything. A private estate with staff. A doctor who made house calls. Security fences. A man called boss by his companion. None of it added up to normal. I looked at my phone on the nightstand, surprised they'd kept it charged. 3% battery, but enough to see a dozen messages from Connor. I deleted them without reading. He'd made his position clear. No messages from Camilla. She was probably still on that work trip to Seattle. Wouldn't even know I'd left Connor yet. I sent her a quick text saying I was okay, staying with friends, would explain later. Not a lie, exactly. Just not the truth. Sleep pulled at me despite the afternoon light. The concussion, probably. Or the trauma of nearly dying. I drifted in and out, aware of someone checking on me periodically. different people, quiet and efficient. When I woke again, evening had settled. A tray of food sat beside the bed. Soup, bread, tea. My stomach growled despite the nausea lurking beneath everything. I managed to sit up this time, moving slowly. The IV had been removed. Someone had left fresh clothes on the chair where Lucia had sat. Soft pants, a sweater. They looked expensive. I was picking at the soup when a knock came. Firm. Deliberate. "Come in." My voice came out rough. The door opened. The man from last night. Adrian Mancini. He looked different in the lamplight. Still imposing. Still handsome in that sharp, dangerous way. But something in his expression was carefully neutral. "You're awake." He stayed in the doorway like he was afraid coming closer might spook me. "How do you feel?" Like I flipped a car. I set down the spoon. "Thank you. For stopping. For bringing me here. I'd be dead if you hadn't. You were lucky we came along that road when we did." He moved into the room but kept distance between us. "Dr. Fontanelli says you can travel in a day or two. Once you're cleared, I'll have someone drive you wherever you need to go. I don't have anywhere to go." The admission came out before I could stop it. The apartment was my ex's. "I don't exactly have a place lined up." Something flickered across his face. "The father of your child. Former father." The bitterness surprised me. He made it clear he's not interested in that role. Adrian was quiet for a moment, studying me with those dark eyes that seemed to see too much. "You can stay here until you have a plan. No charge. No expectation. Why would you do that?" "Because you need help, and I'm in a position to provide it." He shrugged like it was simple. "We have the space. You need time to recover and figure out your next steps. It makes sense." It didn't make sense. People didn't offer strangers refuge in their private estates out of pure altruism. "What kind of business are you in?" The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. "Import and export. The family has been established in Montana for 60 years. It sounded legitimate. But everything about this place, about him, felt like there was more beneath the surface. The way his companion had called him boss. The comment about eyes on the hospital. The carefully maintained distance he kept even now. I saw security fences. Cameras. We're isolated out here. Security is necessary. He moved to the window, looking out at the grounds. Montana has its dangers. Weather, wildlife. It pays to be cautious. "Is that why you didn't take me to the hospital?" Caution? He turned back, and for a second something genuine crossed his face. "Partly. The weather was getting worse by the minute. My estate was closer and better equipped than risking the drive, and partly because I'd just come from a meeting with someone who doesn't like me very much. Hospitals are public. Predictable. Not ideal when you're concerned about being followed." It was the most honest thing he'd said. "Who doesn't like you?" "A business rival. Nothing you need to worry about." But the way he said it made me worry anyway. "If there's danger here, I should leave. I can't risk—" I touched my stomach instinctively. "You're safer here than anywhere else right now." His voice was firm. Certain. "I give you my word. No harm will come to you under my roof." I wanted to trust him. He'd saved my life, after all. But trust had gotten me exactly nowhere with Connor. "Your word doesn't mean much to me." "I don't know you." "Fair enough." He moved toward the door. "Stay or go. Your choice. But if you stay, you'll be protected. That much I can promise. And if I go, I'll have Franco drive you anywhere in Montana. Arrange a hotel if you need one. Make sure you're set up safely." He paused in the doorway. "But I'd recommend staying. At least until you're stronger. At least until you have a real plan." "Why do you care?" The question stopped him. He looked back, and something in his expression was almost vulnerable. "Because leaving people to freeze in the snow isn't who I am. And because you're pregnant and alone, and I can help. That should be enough." He left before I could respond. I stared at the closed door, trying to understand what I'd just agreed to, by not immediately refusing. A private estate with security. A doctor on call. A man who commanded deference and offered protection like it was currency. None of it was normal. But neither was being 8 weeks pregnant, homeless, and recovering from a car accident that should have killed me. I finished the soup. Drank the tea. Put on the borrowed clothes that fit perfectly despite no one asking my size. Through the window, I watched security patrol the perimeter, watched cameras rotate on their mounts, watched the snow fall soft and steady over everything, and I made my decision. I'd stay, at least for a few days. At least until I had a plan that didn't involve sleeping in my car or crawling back to Connor. But I'd keep my eyes open, because Adrian Mancini, with his expensive suits and careful words, was hiding something, and people who hid things were usually dangerous. I just hoped I hadn't traded one bad situation for something worse. The first 72 hours passed in a strange suspension of reality. Dr. Fontanelli checked on me twice daily. My concussion symptoms faded. The cuts healed. The baby remained stable, which was the only thing that really mattered. Lucia brought me books, asked about my work as a translator. I told her about the freelance contracts, mostly technical documents for companies expanding internationally. Boring but steady income, or it had been, before I'd lost access to my computer and files still sitting in Connor's apartment. We could retrieve your things, she offered on the second day. Send someone to collect them, and start a confrontation with my ex. No thanks. I was sitting up in bed, finally feeling human again. He can keep it all. I'll start over. Admirable, or foolish. She studied me with the same intensity her brother had. Starting over takes money. I have some savings, enough for first and last month's rent somewhere small. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And equipment, computer, software licenses for translation work? I hadn't thought that far ahead. I'll figure it out. Lucia smiled slightly. You know, we occasionally need translation services, contracts with Italian suppliers, business correspondence. If you're interested, I could use help with a backlog. You're offering me work? I'm offering you an opportunity to earn money while you recover and plan your next move. Mutually beneficial. She set a folder on the bed. Look these over. If they interest you, we can discuss rates. After she left, I opened the folder. Import contracts, shipping manifests, all in Italian, which I read fluently thanks to my mother's insistence on language education. The terminology was standard commercial stuff, though some phrases seemed deliberately vague. Merchandise listed as general goods rather than specifics. I told myself every company had proprietary concerns. That vague terminology was normal, but doubt lingered. On the third day, Dr. Fontanelli cleared me for light activity. I ventured out of the room for the first time, following the hallway to a grand staircase. The house was even larger than I'd imagined. High ceilings, marble floors, artwork that probably cost more than I'd earn in 5 years, but also functional touches that seemed out of place. Reinforced doors, camera coverage in every corner, windows with security film. It felt less like a home and more like a fortress pretending to be one. I found Lucia in what she called the morning room, though it was well past noon. She was working through documents, reading glasses perched on her nose. Madison, good to see you up and moving. How do you feel? Better. Strong enough to go stir crazy if I stay in that room another day. I sat across from her. I looked at those contracts. The translations are straightforward, but some of the terminology is unusual. How so? Vague. Most shipping contracts specify contents. These don't. Lucia set down her pen, expression unreadable. Our suppliers prefer discretion. Some items are prototypes, trade secrets. Standard practice in competitive industries. It made sense. It also felt like a rehearsed answer. What exactly does your family import? Luxury goods primarily. Italian leather, textiles, wines, some specialty foods. My grandfather started the business 60 years ago when he immigrated. Adrian has expanded it significantly. And export? Montana beef, timber products, agricultural equipment. She picked up her pen again. Nothing sinister, if that's what you're asking. I wasn't... Yes, you were. But she didn't sound offended. You're smart to ask questions. This house, the security, it raises questions. The truth is, we're wealthy and isolated. That makes us targets. We've had theft attempts, vandalism, so we take precautions. The man Adrian mentioned, the rival, Sergio Verciani. He runs competing import operations, undercuts our prices with inferior goods, spreads rumors to damage our reputation. Business rivalry can be vicious. She met my eyes. But you're safe here. That I promise. I wanted to believe her. Wanted to accept the simple explanation. But I'd spent 2 years believing Connor's lies. And I was done being naive. Still, I needed work. Needed time to heal and plan. And translating documents, even suspicious ones, wasn't illegal. I'll do the translations. Standard freelance rates? Double them. You're doing us a favor on short notice. Lucia smiled. I'll have them sent to your room with a laptop. Take your time. That evening, the roads finally cleared. I could leave if I wanted. Should leave, probably. Instead, I worked on translations, earning money I desperately needed, in a house that felt like it was hiding secrets. Dinner was served in a formal dining room. Lucia had insisted I join them rather than eating alone. Adrian sat at the head of the table, Franco to his right. I took the seat Lucia indicated, feeling out of place in borrowed clothes at a table that could seat 20. You're looking better, Adrian said. Not quite a question. Dr. Fontanelli says I'm healing well. Thank you again for arranging that, and for letting me stay. The words felt inadequate. I'll be out of your way soon. You're not in our way. He served himself from platters brought by silent staff. Lucia mentioned you're helping with translations. It's the least I can do, and I need the work. What made you become a translator? Franco asked. First words he'd spoken to me directly. My mother was Italian. She taught me the language growing up. After she died, it felt like keeping a piece of her alive. I hadn't meant to be so honest. The words just came. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. My mother died when I was 12. Cancer. I understand wanting to hold on to what remains. And your father? Left before that. Couldn't handle her illness. His voice was flat, emotionless. My grandfather raised Lucia and me. Taught us about family, loyalty, what it means to protect what's yours. He sounds like a good man. He was. Died 5 years ago. Left me the business and expectations I'm still trying to live up to. Adrian met my eyes across the table. What about your father? Died in a car accident when I was 16. Just me and Mom after that. Then she got pneumonia 3 years ago and didn't recover. I pushed food around my plate. So I understand being alone. Silence settled. Not uncomfortable exactly. More like mutual recognition of shared loss. You're not alone now, Lucia said quietly. Not while you're here. I wanted to argue that I was only a temporary guest. That this wasn't real. That I'd be gone soon. But the warmth in her voice made me swallow the words. After dinner, I wandered the first floor. Large windows overlooked the grounds, now lit by security lights. I counted 6 guards on patrol. More than seemed necessary for simple theft prevention. Can't sleep? I turned. Adrian stood in the hallway, still in his dinner clothes but jacket removed, sleeves rolled up. He looked more human this way, less intimidating. Exploring. This house is incredible. Built by my grandfather with money from the import business. He wanted something that would last, that would tell people the Mancini name meant something. Adrian moved to stand beside me at the window. Sometimes I think the house is too big for just Lucia and me. It does seem designed for a larger family. It was. Grandfather imagined generations living here. Cousins, aunts, uncles. But most of the family stayed in Italy. Just a few of us made the journey. He glanced at me. Do you ever think about going back? To Italy? I've never been. Mom always meant to take me, but money was tight. Then she was gone. I watched snow begin falling again, light flurries. Maybe someday, when this is over, when you're settled somewhere, you should go. See where half of you comes from. The certainty in his voice made me smile. Confident I'll have the money for international travel. I'm confident you'll figure out how to get what you want. You're a survivor. He said it like fact, not flattery. We stood in comfortable silence, watching the snow. Then a phone buzzed. Adrian pulled it from his pocket, frowned at the screen. I need to take this. Business. At 9 at night. Import operations don't respect time zones. He moved toward his office, then paused. Madison, if you have nightmares again, don't hesitate to call someone. The staff knows to respond. How did you... Walls aren't as thick as you'd think. I heard you last night. He looked almost embarrassed. Bad dreams are normal after trauma. He left before I could respond. I stood alone in the hallway, realizing Adrian Mancini had been awake at 2 a.m, close enough to hear me through walls. Either he was an insomniac, or he'd been specifically listening. I wasn't sure which possibility unsettled me more. I returned to my room, locked the door, and pulled out my phone. It was time to call Camilla for real, to explain what had happened. But looking at her contact information, I hesitated. What would I say? I'm living in a mansion with a man I don't know, translating contracts that might not be legal, because I have nowhere else to go. Instead, I opened the translated documents and worked until my eyes blurred. At least this was something I could control. Something that made sense in a situation where nothing else did. Outside my window, security lights blazed. Guards patrolled. Cameras recorded everything. And somewhere in this enormous house, Adrian Mancini conducted business that required armed protection, and happened at hours when normal people slept. I should leave. I knew that, but I also knew I'd agreed to stay. At least a few more days. At least until I had a real plan. At least until I understood what I'd stumbled into. 10 days after the accident, I'd fallen into something resembling routine. Mornings translating documents in my room. Afternoons with Lucia, learning more about the import business than I probably should. Evenings at dinner where Adrian and I exchanged carefully polite conversation that never went deeper than surface pleasantries. I'd learned to ignore the security presence, to not flinch when Franco appeared in doorways without sound, to pretend the reinforced windows and armed patrols were normal. Camilla had finally returned my calls. I'd kept it vague, said I'd left Connor and was staying with distant family connections while I figured things out. She'd offered her couch, but I'd declined. Told her I needed space to think. Not entirely a lie. I was working on a particularly complex shipping manifest when the explosion rattled my windows. Not loud. Not close enough to shatter glass, but unmistakable. I dropped the laptop and ran to the window. Smoke rose from the direction of the front gates, dark against the afternoon sky. My door burst open. Franco, expression grim. Come with me, now. What's happening? No time. Move. He grabbed my arm, not rough but insistent. I stumbled after him down the hallway. Lucia appeared from another room, face pale. How many? Unknown. Adrian's coordinating response. I need to get you both secured. Franco led us toward the back of the house, to a door I'd never noticed before. Heavy steel disguised to look like wood paneling. What about Adrian? Lucia demanded. Following protocol. He'll join you when the perimeter is secure. Franco punched a code into a keypad. The door swung open, revealing stairs descending into darkness. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't theft prevention. This was military-grade security for an active threat. The stairs led to a basement room that looked more like a bunker. Concrete walls. Emergency supplies lined in neat rows. Communications equipment. And guns. Multiple rifles secured in a locked case. Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone but Adrian or me. Franco handed Lucia a phone. Direct line to security command. Use it if anything goes wrong. Franco, Lucia started. But he was already gone, the door sealing behind him with a definitive click. I turned to Lucia, whose composure had finally cracked. What the hell is going on? Sit down, Madison. No. I want answers. Real ones. That wasn't a theft attempt. That was an attack. Lucia moved to the communications console. Flip switches. Static crackled. Then voices. Men reporting positions. Someone saying the south fence was breached. Adrian's voice, calm and commanding, directing response. Lucia. My voice came out harder than I intended. Tell me what your family really does. She looked at me for a long moment, making calculations, weighing risks. Finally, she sighed. Import and export. That part is true. But not just legal goods. So you're criminals. We're survivors in a world that doesn't offer many legitimate paths to power for immigrant families. She sat, suddenly looking tired. My grandfather came here with nothing. Built an organization that protected our community, provided for people the system ignored. Yes, some of it operates outside the law. But we have rules. No human trafficking. No drugs that destroy lives. No violence against innocents. Those are pretty specific rules for a legal business. They're rules my grandfather established when he realized legitimate business alone wouldn't keep the family safe, wouldn't give us leverage against people like Verciani. I sank into a chair, processing. Sergio Verciani, the rival Adrian mentioned. He's not just a business competitor, is he? He represents the Cartel del Golfo. They're expanding north through Montana, using the Canadian border as a new route. Adrian's been blocking their access to distribution networks, refusing partnerships that would compromise our rules. Lucia rubbed her temples. 6 weeks ago, Verciani made it clear he'd take what he wanted by force if necessary. And I'm caught in the middle of a gang war. You're under Adrian's protection. That means something in this world. I didn't ask for protection. I didn't ask to be pulled into this. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't fair. Adrian had saved my life. The alternative was freezing to death in the snow. Above us, muffled sounds suggested the fight continued. Gunfire, brief and controlled. Shouting in Italian. I thought about the baby. About how spectacularly I'd failed at providing a safe environment before it was even born. Connor's rejection. A car accident. And now actual combat happening over my head. I need to leave. As soon as this is over, I need to get out of here. Where will you go? Lucia's question was gentle. You have no apartment, limited funds, no support system. At least here you're protected. Protected or imprisoned. There's a difference. Believe me, 15 minutes passed. 20. The voices on the radio reported perimeter secured, intruders neutralized or fled. Adrian's voice cut through. Status on Lucia and Madison? Secure in the safe room, boss. I'm coming down. 2 minutes later, the door opened. Adrian stepped through and my breath caught. Blood streaked his left arm, soaking through his shirt. Not his blood, I realized, seeing the perfectly controlled way he moved. Or not entirely his blood. Everyone okay? His eyes found me first, scanning for injury. We're fine. You're not. Lucia stood, reaching for a first aid kit mounted on the wall. Let me see that arm. It's superficial, graze from flying debris, but he let her push up his sleeve, revealing a shallow cut across his forearm. Nothing serious, but enough to bleed. Lucia cleaned it efficiently while Adrian watched me. I'm sorry you had to see this. Had to be part of it. What was it? Really? A probe. Verciani testing our defenses, seeing how we respond. Adrian winced as Lucia applied antiseptic. They hit the gates with enough force to gauge response time, then retreated. Professional. And now they know about me. The realization settled heavy. They saw Franco move us. They know you have people here worth protecting. Adrian's jaw tightened. Yes. So I'm a liability. A target they can use against you. You're someone under my protection. He pulled away from Lucia, sleeve rolled down. That makes you untouchable by the rules we all operate under. Verciani knows that. Rules in gang warfare. Sure, those are super reliable. I couldn't keep the sarcasm out. They're more reliable than you think. Break them, and every organization in the region turns against you. Verciani is ambitious, not suicidal. Adrian moved closer, and I saw exhaustion beneath the control. But you're right that staying here puts you at risk. If you want to leave, I'll arrange transport. Set you up somewhere safe with enough money to restart. You'd do that? Just let me walk away knowing what I know? I'd do that because keeping you here against your will makes me no better than the men I fight against. His voice was firm. Stay or go. Your choice. But if you go, understand that Verciani might still see you as leverage. You'd need to be careful. Very careful. The implication was clear. Leaving meant looking over my shoulder indefinitely. Staying meant accepting protection from a man who'd just coordinated an armed defense of his property. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. Adrian headed for the stairs, then paused. For what it's worth, I am sorry. You deserved a safe place to recover, and I couldn't provide that. I failed you in that regard. He left before I could respond. Lucia and I sat in the bunker's artificial light, surrounded by emergency supplies and weapons, while above us men cleaned up the evidence of violence. He means it, Lucia said quietly. If you want out, he'll make sure you're safe. As safe as possible, anyway. And if I stay, then you accept that this is the world we live in. That protection comes with cost. That safety is an illusion we maintain through strength and fear." She met my eyes. "But also that you'd be part of something. Part of a family, however unconventional. That you wouldn't be alone anymore." I touched my stomach, where a baby grew completely unaware of the chaos surrounding its existence. Connor didn't want us. My parents were gone. Camilla was a friend, not family. I had nothing and no one, except maybe here, in this fortress where armed guards patrolled and a man with blood on his clothes offered protection with steady conviction. "I need to see him, Adrian. He'll be in his office, coordinating cleanup and security adjustments." Lucia stood. "Top of the stairs, turn left, third door. He won't turn you away." I climbed back to the main house, following her directions. Found Adrian's office exactly where she'd said. The door was open. He sat at a massive desk, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. When he saw me, he ended the call. "Madison, tell me the truth. All of it. What you are. What you do. What staying here means." I stood in the doorway, refusing to enter until I had answers. No more evasions, no more half-truths. I deserve to know what I'm choosing. Adrian studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Close the door. Sit down. And I'll tell you everything." I stepped inside, closed the door, sat across from him and waited for the truth that would determine everything that came next. Adrian poured 2 glasses of water from a crystal decanter, slid one across the desk to me. His hands were steady despite everything that had just happened. "My grandfather, Vittorio Mancini, came to Montana in 1965, with nothing but family recipes and determination. He started small, a restaurant in Billings that served the Italian community. But there weren't many of us, and the legitimate money wasn't enough to protect what he was building." I sipped the water, waiting. Adrian leaned back in his chair, and I realized this was hard for him. Vulnerability didn't come naturally. So he made arrangements. Provided services the law wouldn't. Protection for businesses being squeezed by corrupt officials. Mediation for disputes the courts ignored. Eventually, imports that avoided excessive tariffs. Nothing violent. Nothing that destroyed lives. Just survival in a system designed to keep immigrants powerless. That's a generous interpretation. It's the truth. Or as close to truth as anything gets in this world. Adrian met my eyes. "When my grandfather died, I inherited an organization that employed 300 people, supported 50 families directly, and operated on principles he'd established. No human trafficking, no hard drugs, no harming innocents. Those weren't suggestions. They were law. And Versiani represents everything my grandfather fought against. The Cartel del Golfo deals in human misery, opioids, forced labor, violence without conscience. They're expanding north, using the Canadian border as a new supply route. Montana is strategic because it's isolated, under-policed, and connects directly to distribution networks across the northern United States. I processed this, trying to reconcile the man who'd carried me from the snow with the criminal he was describing. "So you're the good mob versus the bad mob. I'm the lesser evil trying to hold territory against a greater one." His voice hardened. "You want moral absolutes? I can't give them. What I do is illegal. What I order sometimes hurts people. But I operate by rules that mean something, and I draw lines Versiani crossed years ago. Why tell me this? Why not just let me leave in ignorance? Because you deserve to make an informed choice. And because lying to you feels wrong in a way lying to others doesn't." He stood, moved to the window overlooking grounds still crawling with security. "Since you arrived, I've had Franco run background on you. Standard precaution. I know about your parents, your work, Connor. I know you're alone and pregnant and terrified. The invasion of privacy should have angered me. Instead, I just felt tired. And what did your research tell you? That you're exactly who you seem. Someone dealt a bad hand trying to survive." He turned back. "That's why I'm giving you a choice. Stay under my protection with full knowledge of what that means. Or leave with enough money to start over somewhere Versiani won't think to look. Either way, I'll do everything I can to keep you safe." "Why? Why do you care what happens to me? The question seemed to catch him off guard. He was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was softer. Because leaving you in that snow wasn't an option. Because you remind me that not everyone in this world operates from angles and advantages. And because when I look at you, I see someone worth protecting. That's rare enough to matter. Heat crawled up my neck. I looked away, unable to hold his gaze. I don't know how to process any of this. Take time. Watch how we operate for a few days. Talk to Lucia about what the organization actually does. Then decide. He returned to his desk, shuffled papers like we'd just discussed quarterly earnings instead of organized crime. In the meantime, I have a situation to manage. Versiani sent a message today. I need to send one back. What kind of message? The kind that makes it clear attacking my home carries consequences. His expression went cold, and I saw the other side of Adrian Mancini, the one who commanded armed men and made decisions about life and death. You should rest. This won't be pleasant. I stood to leave, then hesitated at the door. The baby. If I stay, can you promise they'll be safe? I can promise I'll die before I let anything happen to either of you. That good enough? It should have sounded dramatic. Instead, it sounded like simple fact. I nodded and left him to whatever message he was planning. The next 3 days, I watched. Lucia walked me through legitimate operations, showed me import records that were legal and profitable. But she also didn't hide the other side. The gambling establishments the family protected, the import routes that avoided taxation, the enforcement arm that dealt with people who broke agreements. We're not saints, she told me over coffee in the morning room. But we're not demons either. We provide structure in spaces where law has failed. We protect people who have no other protection. I saw Adrian with his men, firm but fair. Saw him settle a dispute between 2 businesses without violence. Saw him fund a community center in Billings that served immigrant families. I also saw the edge beneath everything, the readiness for violence, the understanding that power required force to maintain. On the 3rd evening, Adrian found me in the library. I'd been reading, trying to distract myself from everything. Can we talk? I closed the book. About what? About whether you're staying or going. I need to know how to plan. He sat across from me, and I noticed the exhaustion around his eyes. If you're leaving, I'll arrange it tomorrow. If you're staying, I need to adjust security protocols. And if I don't know yet, then tell me what would help you decide. I considered the question. What did I want? Safety for my baby. Work that used my skills. To not be alone. All things this place offered, wrapped in moral complexity I couldn't untangle. Tell me about your mother. You said she died when you were 12. The subject change surprised him. Why? Because I want to know who you were before all this. Before you inherited an empire and a war. Adrian was quiet, then. She was kind. Patient. Taught elementary school, despite knowing she was sick. My father couldn't handle watching her fade, so he left. She told me he was weak for running, but that weakness doesn't make someone evil. Just human. He smiled slightly. She made me promise to always choose people over power when I could. To remember that everyone has reasons for their choices, even when those choices hurt others. Do you keep that promise? I try. Not always successfully. He met my eyes. Is that what you needed to know? Part of it. I set down the book. I'll stay. For now. Until I figure out my next step, or until the baby comes. Whichever happens first. Relief flashed across his face before he controlled it. You're sure? No. But I'm out of better options. And at least here I understand the dangers. I stood. But I have conditions. I want to work legitimately on your legal imports. I don't want to know details about the illegal side. And if this gets too dangerous, if Versiani escalates, I'm leaving whether you agree or not. Fair terms. Adrian stood as well, offered his hand. You have my word, we'll honor them. I shook his hand, aware of how warm his grip was, how it lingered a second too long. When I pulled away, the air between us felt charged with something I didn't want to examine too closely. I should go. It's late. Madison. He stopped me at the door. Thank you for trusting me even a little. I know it's not easy. I nodded and fled before I could do something stupid like admit how safe I felt despite everything. How his presence made me feel seen in ways Connor never had. How dangerous that attraction was given everything between us. That night, I dreamed of the accident again. But this time when I was dying in the snow, Adrian appeared not as rescuer but as something else. Something inevitable and terrifying and desired all at once. I woke gasping, covers tangled around my legs. The dream lingered, uncomfortable in its implications. A soft knock interrupted my spiraling thoughts. "Madison? Are you okay?" Adrian. His voice muffled through the door but concerned. I should have told him to leave. Should have maintained distance. Instead, I opened the door. He stood in the hallway in sleep pants and a t-shirt. Hair mussed like he'd been asleep but woken by something. Nightmare. I admitted. "I'm fine." "You're shaking." I was. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly aware I was in thin pajamas, and he was too close, and my heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. It's just processing everything. "I'll be okay." Adrian studied my face, then nodded slowly. "If you need anything, I'm just down the hall. Don't hesitate." He started to leave. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe the dream or the admission or the way he looked at me like I mattered. But I reached out and caught his wrist. "Stay. Just for a minute." He froze. "Madison, I don't want to be alone right now. That's all." But it wasn't all. And we both knew it. Adrian's expression shifted into something conflicted. Wanting and restraint warring visibly. "That's not a good idea." "I know." I didn't let go. "Stay anyway." He hesitated another moment, then stepped into the room. Sat in the chair by the window instead of the bed, maintaining distance even while granting my request. We sat in the dark, not speaking, until my breathing steadied and the nightmare faded. When he finally left, I lay awake wondering what I'd just started and whether I had the strength to stop it. 2 days after Adrian's operation against Verziani, an uneasy calm settled over the estate. Security had been doubled, but no new attacks came. Franco reported Verziani's people had retreated, regrouping. I tried to pretend everything was normal. Worked on translations, had meals with Lucia. Avoided being alone with Adrian because something had shifted between us that night in my room, and I didn't know how to handle it. My phone rang. Camilla. I'd been dodging her calls for 2 weeks. "Madison Cole? You've been ghosting me. What's going on?" "It's complicated." "Is Connor bothering you?" "Connor's not the problem." I moved to the window, watching security patrol. I left him. "I'm somewhere safe. I just need time to figure things out." "Where are you?" "Outside Billings. With people who are helping me get back on my feet." "That's not an answer." Camilla knew me too well. "Madison, you're scaring me. Are you in trouble?" "No, I promise. I'm actually safer than I've been in a long time. I'm coming to see you. This weekend. You can't stop me." My stomach dropped. "Camilla, that's not a good idea." "Why not?" I pinched the bridge of my nose. If I kept refusing, she'd get more suspicious. "Okay, but let me clear it first. I'll text you the address after I talk to my hosts." I found Adrian in his office. "My friend Camilla wants to visit. This weekend." I tried to put her off, but she's persistent. Adrian set down his pen. "You trust her?" "With my life." "Then we'll arrange it. Franco will run a security check. Standard protocol. If she's clear, she's welcome here. Thank you for agreeing to the visit. Madison." He stopped me at the door. "Whatever she says about this place or me, the choice is still yours. I want you to stay because you choose to, not because you feel obligated." Franco ran his check. Camilla came back clean. Saturday afternoon, she arrived in her beat-up Honda, eyes widening at the security gates. "Madison, what the hell?" I met her in the driveway, hugging her tight. "I know. It's a lot." "A lot?" "This place looks like a fortress." We went to my room. She examined it with shock. "Who are these people?" I sat on the bed. "After I left Connor, I got in a car accident. Bad one. The man who owns this estate found me and brought me here to recover. His sister offered me translation work. Translation work that pays enough for you to live in a mansion? I'm not paying rent. They're letting me stay while I figure out my next move. I took a breath. Camilla, I need to tell you something else. I'm pregnant. Her eyes went wide. What? Almost 11 weeks now. Connor didn't want it. That's why I left. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? We're both fine, Doctor. Fontanelli has been monitoring everything. The people here have been really good to me. Dr. Fontanelli, who makes house calls to a fortress? Camilla's suspicion sharpened. Madison? What aren't you telling me? Before I could answer, Lucia knocked. Sorry to intrude. I wanted to introduce myself. Lucia Mancini. She entered with confidence. Camilla stood, shaking her hand warily. Camilla Santos, Madison's friend. I've heard nice things. Lucia smiled. I hope you'll join us for dinner tonight. My brother would like to meet you. Your brother who runs this place? Adrian, yes. 6:30 in the formal dining room. After Lucia left, Camilla rounded on me. That woman is either a lawyer or a mob wife. Real explanation, Madison, not the sanitized version. So I told her. Not everything. I left out details about the full extent of operations, but I told her enough. That the Mancini family ran businesses in gray areas, that they'd protected me when I had nowhere else to go. Camilla listened, face growing more horrified. You're living with the mob. I'm living with people who have resources and are willing to use them to keep me safe. You need to leave. Come stay with me. And if Verciani's people track me there. If they decide you're leverage, I shook my head. At least here, there's actual protection. This isn't you. You're not someone who gets mixed up in criminal enterprises. I'm someone who's pregnant and alone and trying to survive. The words came out harsh. You think I want this? But it's better than the alternatives. It's better than being on my own with a target on my back. You don't know that. Then I'll leave when it feels wrong. But right now, this is where I need to be. Camilla looked at me for a long time. Okay, but I'm staying close, checking in. And the second this feels wrong, you call me. Promise. I promise. When 6:30 came, we went downstairs. The dining room looked like something from a movie. Adrian sat at the head in a dark suit. Franco and Lucia flanked him. They stood when we entered. Camilla, thank you for joining us. Adrian's voice was warm but formal. I'm Adrian Mancini. Please sit. Dinner was uncomfortable despite attempts at normalcy. Lucia guided conversation to safe topics. Adrian asked Camilla polite questions about her design work. She answered briefly, never relaxing. During dessert, Camilla set down her fork and looked at Adrian. So what happens when Madison wants to leave? Can she just walk out? The table went silent. Adrian met her challenge. She's free to leave whenever she chooses. I've made that clear from the beginning. And you just let her go? No strings? I'd make sure she went somewhere safe with resources to start over. Just like I promised. His voice was steady. Your friend isn't a prisoner. She's a guest I'm doing my best to protect. From threats that exist because of your world. That's fair. Adrian didn't look away. But the threats exist whether she's here or not. At least here, I can do something about them. Camilla studied him, weighing his words. Finally, she nodded. She trusts you. I don't know why, but she does. So I'm going to trust her judgment. But I'm also going to be watching. I'd expect nothing less from someone who cares about her. Adrian's expression softened. For what it's worth, I'm glad Madison has you. The tension eased fractionally. When dinner ended, Camilla pulled me aside. He cares about you. Like, really cares. You see that, right? It's not like that. Madison, he looks at you like you're precious. She squeezed my arm. Just be careful. Men like that, men with that kind of power, they're dangerous even when they mean well. I know. But even as I said it, I wondered if I was being careful enough. Camilla stayed the night, left the next morning with promises to call daily. As I watched her drive away, I felt the weight of my choices settling heavier. I'd chosen to stay, to accept protection from a criminal, to let myself feel safe in a place built on violence. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I wondered when safe had started feeling like home. That afternoon, I was translating in the library when Adrian found me. He looked troubled. We need to talk. There's been a development. My stomach clenched. What kind of development? Verciani reached out. Wants to meet. Says he has information about your friend Camilla that I need to hear. Adrian's jaw was tight. It could be a trap. Or it could be legitimate intelligence. Either way, I can't ignore it. What kind of information about Camilla? He wouldn't say over the phone. But he mentioned her by name, Madison. That means he's been watching, tracking connections. Adrian moved closer. I wanted you to know before I went. Franco will stay here with enhanced security. You and Lucia will be protected. You're going alone? With a team. But yes, I'm going. He touched my shoulder briefly. If something happens to me, Franco has instructions. You'll be taken care of, kept safe, I promise. Don't talk like that. I have to be realistic. His hand lingered. But I'll come back. I always do. He left that evening, taking 20 men with him. I watched from my window as the convoy of vehicles disappeared down the drive. Lucia found me an hour later, 2 glasses of wine in hand. She kept one, offered me the other. I can't. The baby. Right, sorry. She sat beside me, sipped her wine. He'll be fine. Adrian survived worse than Verziani. That's supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be truth. She looked at me. You're falling for him. I wanted to deny it. Couldn't. It's complicated. Everything about Adrian is complicated, but he's also the most loyal person I know. If he cares about you, and he does, he'll move heaven and earth to keep you safe, even if it means walking into traps. Especially then. Lucia finished her wine. That's who he is. It's what makes him both the best and worst person to love. Love. The word hung between us, terrifying in its accuracy. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. I couldn't sleep, couldn't stop imagining worst-case scenarios. Finally, at 2 a.m, headlights swept the drive. I ran downstairs, not caring about propriety or caution. Adrian walked through the door looking exhausted but whole. When he saw me, something in his expression cracked. You waited up. What did Verziani say? Later. Right now I just need... He stopped himself, but I understood what he couldn't say. I closed the distance between us. You came back. That's what matters. We stood there in the entrance hall, not touching but close enough that I could feel his warmth. Close enough that the space between us felt alive with everything we weren't saying. Madison, don't. Not tonight. Just be here. Be okay. He nodded slowly. And for a moment, in the silence of the house, it was enough. The morning after Adrian's meeting with Verziani, he finally told me what had transpired. We sat in his office, door closed, while he explained with careful control. Verziani has been tracking Camilla for 3 weeks. He approached her, showed pictures of you here, of the estate, told her that her little brother owed money to some of his associates. My blood went cold. Camilla doesn't have a brother. She does. Lucas, 19, college dropout, got into debt with dealers working for the cartel. Adrian's jaw was tight. Verziani told Camilla he'd forgive the debt if she provided information. She wouldn't. But doubt crept in. Camilla was protective. If someone threatened family, she'd do anything. She did. Not much. Vague details about layout, number of guards she saw, but enough. Adrian stood, paced to the window. He used that meeting to tell me he has leverage now. That if I don't withdraw from the northern distribution networks, he'll use it. Use Camilla? Or use me? Both. He turned back, and I saw genuine fear beneath his anger. He knows you're the weakness, Madison. That you're the one person I won't risk. The admission hung heavy. I stood. So what do we do? I've already sent men to extract Lucas. Get him into rehab on our dime, protected. Camilla's being brought here now. You're bringing her into this? She's already in it. Better here where I can protect her. Adrian moved closer. But we have a bigger problem. Verziani made it clear this was a warning. His next move will be more aggressive. He'll come for me. He'll try. Adrian's voice went cold. Which is why we're moving you to a secure location until I can neutralize the threat. No. He blinked. Madison? No. I'm not running while you handle things. I crossed my arms. If Verziani wants a confrontation, give him one. But do it with me here, where I can know what's happening. That's not safe. Nothing about this is safe. but I'd rather face danger with information than hide in ignorance. I held his gaze. I'm staying. Adrian studied me, something in his expression shifting. You're more stubborn than I gave you credit for. A knock interrupted. Franco entered, face grim. Boss, we have a situation. Camilla's not at her apartment. Neighbors say 2 men came for her an hour ago. Hispanic, driving a black SUV. The blood drained from my face. Versiani has her. We don't know that yet. But Adrian's expression said otherwise. Franco, activate all assets. I want eyes on every cartel property in Montana. On it. Franco left, already making calls. I grabbed Adrian's arm. We have to find her. We will. His hand covered mine. I promise you, Madison. We'll get her back. How can you promise that? Because I don't break promises. Not to you. He pulled away. Stay with Lucia. I'm taking a team. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. She's my friend. I'm not sitting here while you risk your life to fix my mess. I planted myself between him and the door. You want me safe? Keep me where you can see me. Adrian looked like he wanted to argue. Fine. But you stay in the vehicle. You follow Franco's orders exactly. Clear? Clear. 20 minutes later, I was in an armored SUV with Franco while Adrian led a convoy toward Billings. We had 3 potential locations based on intel. Franco drove in silence, occasionally speaking into his radio. I sat in the back, hands clenched so tight my nails cut crescents into my palms. He'll get her back. Franco's voice cut through my spiral. Boss doesn't fail when it matters. We pulled up to the first location. Adrian and his team swept it quickly. Empty. Second location. Same result. By the time we reached the third warehouse, tension had everyone on edge. This one showed signs of occupation. Fresh tire tracks. Lights visible through windows. Adrian gave orders through his radio. Teams positioned at 3 entry points. Franco and I stayed back 50 yards. If I give the signal, you drive out of here. Franco's hand rested on his weapon. Straight to the estate. I'm not leaving without you and Adrian. You will if I tell you to. The assault began. Adrian's team breached 2 entrances simultaneously. Gunfire erupted. Sharp cracks that made me flinch. It lasted less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes that felt like hours while I watched smoke rise. Then Adrian's voice on the radio. Clear. We have her. Bringing out 2 civilians. Relief nearly buckled my knees. Franco drove us closer. Men emerged, some wounded but mobile. Then Adrian, supporting Camilla, who looked shaken but unharmed. Behind them, another man. Lucas, probably. I jumped out before Franco could stop me, running to Camilla. She collapsed into my arms, shaking. I'm sorry. God, Madison, I'm so sorry. He said he'd hurt Lucas. I didn't know what to do. It's okay. You're safe now. I held her tight. We'll figure this out. Adrian approached, blood speckling his shirt, but none of it his. We need to move. Versiani wasn't here. He'll retaliate fast. Where's he likely to strike? Franco asked. Estate is too fortified. He'll try to catch us in transit. Adrian's eyes found mine. Madison, get back in the vehicle. Now. I helped Camilla into the SUV. Lucas climbed in after her, looking shocked. Franco took the driver's seat while Adrian got into the lead vehicle. We drove fast through Billings, convoy tight. I kept waiting for ambush. We were 10 minutes from the estate when it happened. A semi-truck pulled out from a side road blocking our path. The lead vehicle swerved. Our SUV screeched to a halt. Behind us, 2 more vehicles appeared, boxing us in. Contact! Franco's voice was eerily calm. He threw the SUV in reverse. Gunfire shattered that plan, bullets pinging off armor plating. Get down! Franco yelled. I pulled Camilla and Lucas to the floor. Through the windows, I saw Adrian's team engaging hostiles. A firefight in broad daylight on a Montana highway. Franco returned fire through his window, movements practiced. The SUV's armor held, but we were trapped. Then Adrian was at our vehicle, yanking the door open. Out. Move now. Franco provided cover while we scrambled out. Adrian grabbed my hand, pulling me toward another vehicle that had broken through. Camilla and Lucas ran behind us. Bullets whined past too close. We made it. Adrian shoved me inside. then turned back to cover our rear. I saw him fire, saw one of Verziani's men fall, saw him move through chaos like he'd been born for it. Franco got Camilla and Lucas into another vehicle. Adrian's team created a corridor of suppression fire. We broke through, leaving burning wreckage behind. The rest of the drive back happened in stunned silence. When we finally reached the estate, I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. Adrian helped me out, hands steadying me. "You okay?" Define okay. But I was alive. We all were. Inside, Dr. Fontanelli checked everyone. Minor injuries, some shrapnel wounds, nothing serious. Camilla and Lucas were set up in secure rooms. I found myself in Adrian's office with Lucia and Franco present. Verziani just declared open war. Lucia's voice was tight. That wasn't subtle. Then we send one back. Adrian's expression was carved from stone. No more half measures. We end this. How? I asked. We locate Verziani and we eliminate the threat. Permanently. He looked at me, and I saw both the man who'd saved me and the killer he had to be. I'm sorry you had to see that today. I chose to be there. I stood on shaking legs, and I'm choosing to stay for whatever comes next. So tell me the plan. Adrian glanced at Lucia and Franco. We have an inside contact in Verziani's operation, someone who's been feeding us information. They've located his primary base of operations, an industrial complex north of the city. He's expecting us to retaliate, but not this fast. When? Lucia asked. Tonight. We hit him with everything we have. 50 men, full tactical gear. Adrian's voice was cold precision. This ends tonight. And if it doesn't? I couldn't help asking. Then we adapt. But one way or another, Verziani will no longer be a threat to you or anyone else I protect. He moved closer to me. You should rest before this happens. You've been through enough today. Will you come back? The question came out smaller than I intended. I always come back. He touched my face briefly. A gesture so gentle it made my chest ache. Wait for me. I nodded, not trusting my voice. That evening I watched from my window as Adrian prepared to leave. Watched him check weapons, give orders, transform into someone harder and more dangerous than the man who'd held my hand. Lucia sat with me. He'll be careful. He has reason to come back now. Because of me. Because of you. She squeezed my shoulder. That's a gift, Madison. Don't waste time feeling guilty about it. Hours passed. Midnight. 1, 2. Every second felt like eternity. Finally, at 3 a.m, headlights swept the drive. I ran downstairs, heart in my throat. Adrian walked through the door, exhausted, blood-stained, but alive and whole. It's done. He said it simply. Verziani's dead. His operation is dismantled. It's over. I crossed the distance between us, not caring about blood or propriety. I just needed to touch him, to confirm he was real and safe. You came back. I promised. His arms came around me, holding me against his chest. It's over, Madison. You're safe now. Really safe. I let myself believe it. Let myself feel the relief and fear, and something deeper I wasn't ready to name. We stood there in the entrance hall, holding each other, while the weight of what had happened settled around us. The war was over. But whatever existed between Adrian and me was just beginning. A week after Verziani's death, Montana felt different. Quieter, like the state itself had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. Camilla and Lucas stayed at the estate for 3 days before Lucas went to the rehabilitation facility Adrian had arranged. Camilla hugged me goodbye with tears, promising to visit once things settled. She'd seen too much, but she'd also seen how Adrian protected those under his care. That counted for something. The days blurred together in a strange new rhythm. Adrian spent long hours with Franco and Lucia, managing the aftermath. Territories had to be secured. Agreements made with other organizations. The business of crime required as much paperwork as legitimate enterprise. I kept working on translations, now openly handling both legal and questionable contracts. I'd crossed that line. No point pretending otherwise. My pregnancy progressed steadily. 12 weeks became 13, then 14. The morning sickness faded, replaced by a small but visible curve to my abdomen. Dr. Fontanelli checked on me twice weekly, assured me everything was developing perfectly. One evening, Adrian found me in the library reading. He looked less exhausted than he had in days. "Can we talk?" I set down my book. "About what?" He sat across from me, and I noticed he seemed nervous. "About what happens next. For you. For us." My heart rate kicked up. "Okay. The immediate threat is gone. You could leave now, safely. Set up somewhere with resources I'd provide." He paused. "Or you could stay. Not as a guest. As something more permanent." "What does more permanent mean?" "It means I'm asking you to build a life here. With me. With Lucia and the family." He leaned forward. "I know it's complicated. I know what I am. But I also know that when I look at you, I see the only thing that's made sense in years." I couldn't breathe properly. "Adrian, I'm not asking for an answer now. Take time." He moved to the window. "But I need you to know that if you stay, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. That you and that baby have everything you need. You're talking about more than just protection. I'm talking about partnership. About building something real together." He turned back. "I'm talking about love, Madison. Because that's what this is." The word hung between us, terrifying and inevitable. I stood. "I don't know how to do this. How to be with someone like you. How to raise a child in this world you operate in. We figure it out together." He crossed the room, stopped close enough that I could feel his warmth. "But only if you want to. This has to be your choice." I looked up at him, at this man who'd saved me, who'd protected me through a gang war, who'd shown me more loyalty than anyone in my life, who was also a criminal, someone who operated outside every moral boundary I'd been raised with. And I realized I didn't care about the morality anymore. When the man offering you darkness also offered safety and something that felt like home, principles became flexible. "I want to stay." The words came out quiet but certain. "Not because I'm afraid, but because when I think about the future, you're in it." Something fierce and vulnerable crossed his face. He cupped my jaw gently. "You're sure?" Terrified, but sure. I leaned into his touch. "So what does that make us?" "Partners, in everything that matters." He pressed his forehead to mine. "I have a 5-year plan. Transition away from illegal operations, focus on legitimate business. Lucia's working on the legal framework. I'm committed to building something our children could inherit without shame. Our children." The phrase caught me. "Yours is mine if you'll let me claim them. Any others we might have." He smiled slightly. "I want that future. With you." I kissed him. It was messy and desperate, and full of relief that we'd finally stopped dancing around what existed between us. When we pulled apart, he looked at me like I was precious. "Stay tonight, with me. Not for anything physical. Just stay. I want to wake up knowing you're here." "Okay." We went to his room, larger and more lived in than my guest room. He gave me clothes to sleep in, and we lay in his bed in the dark. Then his hand found mine, fingers interlacing. "Thank you," he said it so quietly, "for trusting me. Thank you for finding me in the snow." I squeezed his hand, for saving me in every way that mattered. We fell asleep like that, future uncertain, but less terrifying together. The next morning, Lucia found us at breakfast. She took one look at our intertwined hands and smiled. "About time. Nothing gets past you. I'm a lawyer and his sister. I notice everything." She poured coffee. "So what's the plan?" Adrian looked at me. "Madison's staying. Permanently. We'll need to set up proper legal protections. Already drafted." Lucia pulled out a folder. "Trust documents, medical proxies, inheritance structures. Welcome to the family, Madison." Family. I hadn't had family since Mom died. Now I had Adrian, Lucia, Franco, even Dr. Fontanelli. A strange, unconventional family built on loyalty. The weeks turned into months. I reached 16 weeks, then 18. The baby's movements became noticeable, little flutters that made everything more real. Adrian attended every doctor's appointment, asked questions, memorized dietary requirements, built a nursery adjacent to his room. Our room, now. Camilla visited monthly, brought baby clothes and stories about Lucas's progress in rehab. She'd made peace with my choices. One afternoon in late spring, Adrian took me to the mountains, the family chalet, isolated and beautiful. Snow still capped peaks, but valleys were green with new growth. We sat on the porch overlooking wilderness. This place is yours too now. He pulled me close. Ours. When things get complicated, we come here. I love you. I said it for the first time, and it felt like falling and flying simultaneously. I probably shouldn't, but I do. I love you too. He kissed my temple. Everything I am, it's yours. Marry me. He said it simply. Not because of the baby. Marry me, because I want you beside me for everything that comes next. Are you proposing or ordering? Proposing. Badly, apparently. He smiled. I had a speech planned, but all I can think is that I want forever. With you. Yes. I didn't need to think. Yes to marriage and forever and whatever chaos comes with loving you. He kissed me then, slow and deep and full of promise. 4 months later, I stood in the estate's garden in a white dress, belly round with 7 months of pregnancy, and married Adrian Mancini in front of 30 people who'd become family. Lucia officiated. Franco stood as best man. Camilla cried through the ceremony. Dr. Fontanelli gave me away. When Adrian slipped the ring on my finger and promised to love me through everything, I believed him. When I promised the same, I meant it with everything in me. 2 months later, on a snowy February morning exactly 1 year after the accident that brought us together, I went into labor. 12 hours of pain and fear, and Adrian's hand crushing mine, and then a cry split the air. It's a girl. Dr. Fontanelli placed her on my chest, tiny and perfect and furious at being born. Congratulations. Adrian looked at our daughter with such naked awe that my heart cracked open. She's perfect. She is. I touched her tiny hand, watched her fingers curl around mine instinctively. What should we name her? Vittoria. He said it softly. After my grandfather, if you agree. Vittoria Mancini. I tested the name, smiled. It's perfect. We sat there, new parents in a house protected by armed guards, surrounded by the trappings of a criminal empire slowly transitioning toward legitimacy. And I felt more at peace than I'd ever imagined possible. I'd been abandoned, bleeding in the snow, left for dead by circumstances and bad choices. Adrian had found me, saved me, loved me in ways I hadn't known I needed. Now we had a daughter, a future, a life built on foundations that probably wouldn't pass ethical scrutiny, but felt solid enough to last. Lucia brought champagne for everyone except me. Franco actually smiled, which was rare enough to be remarkable. Even the guards who patrolled sent gifts for the baby. That night, after everyone left and Vittoria slept in her bassinet beside our bed, Adrian pulled me close. Thank you. He whispered against my hair. For choosing this. For choosing me. Thank you for finding me. I pressed closer, exhausted and sore, and happier than I had any right to be. For giving me a family when I had nothing. You gave me everything. His arms tightened. I was just surviving before you. Now I'm living. I fell asleep in his arms, our daughter breathing softly nearby, snow falling outside windows protected by men who'd die to keep us safe. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't even close, but it was mine, ours, and that was more than enough.